What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Dolphins In Depth podcast. I'm Daniel Oyefusi. Thanks so much for tuning in. Quick reminder before we start, make sure to subscribe to the Miami Herald YouTube page, like, share, comment, as well as subscribe to the Miami Herald. Now, the Dolphins and the entire NFL's offseason workout program schedule has come to an end. The players are off, the coaches are off until training camp starts in late July. But we're still busy on the Dolphins In Depth podcast. We're taking a trip around the AFC East, looking at the Dolphins division rivals, how they stack up, and what to expect as the Dolphins get ready to face all three of those teams, the Jets, the Patriots, and the Bills, two times over the course of the 2023 NFL season. We're going to start with the New York Jets, who made the biggest move of the offseason, maybe the biggest offseason move of the past several years. They're relevant, they're interesting, and we got to talk about them and how they stack up. And to do that, I brought my man Antwan Staley, NFL and Jets reporter for the New York Daily News, and that might be a familiar name. He's been in South Florida for some time before covering the Dolphins. Antwan, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. It's good to be with you, man. Talking football once again.
Yeah, most definitely. Again, we still got 1 month until training camp starts, but we got to take a look at the Dolphins division rivals. And again, the Jets making the biggest move of the offseason, trading for future Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers. There was a lot of weeks and months of speculation. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be out of Green Bay? Where is he going to go? They finally got the deal done, bringing him to the Big Apple. And as you can expect, everyone, all the eyes and all the attention has been on New York. They got five primetime games. They got the first ever Black Friday game. They're going to be hosting the Dolphins the day after Thanksgiving. So you're going to be busy. You're going to be up late a lot of times. But
Yeah.
hey, I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more than that. So you just finished. I believe the Jets wrapped up OTAs and their offseason workout program last week.
Yes.
So you got your first up close look in Aaron Rodgers and how he fits with this team. What overall have been your early impressions on Aaron Rodgers and how he fits with this team?
Well, I mean, I think he's just really changing everything that they do. I mean, we're talking about an organization that hasn't necessarily been used to winning recently. And then you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers who's used to doing a lot of things, winning at a high level. Although, I mean, he's only won one Super Bowl, but still having a lot of success, whether it be, during the regular season and some postseason. But so he's come in, really changed the culture of this franchise. He's really come in, held players accountable. Just whether it be in the meeting, individual meetings, he's also in offensive line meetings, running back room meetings, wide receiver meetings, and making sure the players know the offense because this is a new offense under Daniel Hackett, which is also, I know a lot of people hadn't really talked about that, but that'll be something that I think just eyes will be kind of glued in as well, how the Jets kind of, take to Hackett's new offense. And, having a guy like Aaron Rodgers and along with Alan Lazard, who's also come in, Randall Cobb, which a bit lesser, but those guys already know the offense, so they can help the players kind of gravitate and be able to learn the offense a little bit on the fly. As we head into training camp, but yeah, he's really held players accountable, and I think that's a big thing, just having a quarterback like that, because that's not something that the Jets have been used to. They used to Zach Wilson the last couple of years, which has been a young guy trying to learn the quarterback position and what it takes to try to win at the NFL level. And you talked about the craziness of just the Jets. I mean, you look at what this practices last year when I first came in covering the beat. It might have been like 7 or 8 of us, just on the beat, regularly. And now
Yeah,
it's like a
everyone's
circus.
over
Yeah,
there.
it's a circus. Like every day you got somebody new coming in, whether it be national or locally.
Yeah, you mentioned the accountability, how he's really like quickly just assume that role of being a leader. Personality wise, what's it been like? Because I think Aaron Rodgers is maybe he's I don't know if it's an acquired taste. He's just a different personality.
He's a different type of
Um,
cat. Yeah,
yeah,
he's
it's
a
like
different type of
like
cat.
what is he like kind of in the interactions with the media so far? Maybe even what you've seen in the way he interacts with some of his teammates and coaches so far.
I mean, I think the way to talk about the teammates first, I think he's even out there on the field, they're joking and laughing, having a good time. I think the players really liked him. I know he's been making his rounds around the New York
Yeah.
scene, whether it be, he was at the Knicks game, New York Rangers, Taylor Swift concert, dancing it up, doing his little thing. And I know Sauce had a funny story about him. about those two meeting, about him meeting Jessica Alba for the first time, and
Yeah,
he
yeah.
didn't necessarily know who she was because you got to be a certain age to kind of at least past 30 to know who Jessica
I
Alba
mean,
is. And
hold
Sauce,
up, hold up. I knew who I'm aware of Jessica Alba. I'm 25. Sauce is like 22, 23. Like
yeah, but yeah, he
I'm not
like
gonna know
22
better.
though. I'm not gonna fault him for knowing that because Jessica was like popping like early 2000s. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm not gonna fault him for that. Like so yeah. But anyway, but yeah, it's just him getting to know the scene a little bit. And as far as the media, he's talked to us. I think he's been really good. I mean, he's joking around, talked about Jersey Shore a little bit, and just some of the things that he's done, but also talking about he's happy to be here. I think the fact that this feels like a brand new change for him, and even though he was with Green Bay for so long, and it's kind of he's trying to get used to wearing Jets green, but he's welcoming the change. Like he's smiling and having a good time doing practice there, and that you can really tell, and it's really infectious. And I think his happiness is reflected on all the players. Obviously, OTAs is going to be different than training camp and then the regular season. So we'll see how long those smiles last. But right now, everybody's kind of in a really good mood, and I
Yeah.
think he's kind of spearheading that.
It's kind of the honeymoon phase right now. Everything is
Exactly.
perfect. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, no. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers. Going from Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers is, it it doesn't need to be said. Like we know what the upgrade is.
Yeah, we know.
But when you see him on the field, like what sticks out to you? Because there's a lot of people that are saying, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers is washed. Maybe he's not the same guy." But like, what's really stood out to you in the several practices that you were able to watch?
Well, I mean, at first he really didn't practice during OTA simply because the calf injury kind of limited him
Yeah,
there. But even then, like when he was just doing stuff on the side, like the man was throwing like 60-yard bombs, just flicking the wrist like easily. And then also was kind of I've noticed that kind of stood out to me was also just him talking like being a coach too out there on the field, whether he was practicing or not. He was looking at the players, talking to Zach Wilson, trying to help him. And whether whether you want to believe it or not, like Zach Wilson, at least during OTAs,
yeah,
he started to look a little bit comfortable, a little bit better. That may not mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but just the fact that Zach Wilson struggled his first 2 years, and then now you got a guy like Aaron Rodgers coming in that can at least help him. Just to, you never know what might happen as far as injuries. I think that really stood out to me that him helping out Zach and also Garrett, his relationship there has been really good too between those two, whether it be on the field or off the field. Because I think, when they were practicing together and then just kind of doing things, I definitely think, his checks at the line, you can definitely see, his communication with the offense there offensively is really huge, something that we did not see, with Zach Wilson, really his first 2 years in the league.
yeah. And you mentioned Zach Wilson. Just the dynamic. It's a very weird. I mean, honestly, to me on the outside, it's kind of a weird dynamic because he had his struggles his first 2 years. It was very clear that they were looking for an upgrade once the season ended. He goes,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make life hell for whoever they bring in. It's like they bring Aaron Rodgers, like, hold on, you're not doing
Exactly.
that.
Well, we knew they were going to bring some type of veteran. That's why we were
Yeah.
like, oh, like what? Like okay.
But what has that like dynamic been like? And I guess from the Jets perspective, what is their plan for Zach Wilson? Because I think the hope is probably that Aaron Rodgers is here for 2 years. Obviously you never know what might happen after 1 year. But I think they hope that this is like kind of like a multi-year thing. But like, where does that leave Zach Wilson right now? Because I mean, is he like the clear number two, or how does that go on?
Right now, yeah. I mean, I'll answer the second question first, the last part. Yeah, I think the plan is for them to just, try to win as many games as possible. Because what the bottom line is, and I'm going to talk about this later on, but if the Jets don't win enough games this year, a
Mhm.
lot of people go lose jobs.
That's
So
very
that's the
true. Yeah.
reason. That's the reason you got Aaron. That's the reason you go pick up an Aaron Rodgers because Joe Douglas. He misfired on Zach Wilson. It hadn't worked out there. They need a veteran quarterback there to try to spearhead things. And, they hadn't made the playoffs since 2010. They have the longest streak in professional sports out of the four major sports right now.
Yeah.
The like Woody Johnson does, the Johnson family in general does not want to see that at all. Like they want the streak to end immediately. So the fact that they were 7-4 heading into December last year, they ended up losing six straight to end the year, had a chance to make the playoffs, they didn't. And they had to sit there and watch the Dolphins make the playoffs and that was, and we tried to talk to the Johnson family after that. We tried to talk to Woody. He wanted nothing to do with it. He did eventually talk to us, but
Yeah.
you had to think he was not very happy with, one, the Jets missing the playoffs the way that they did, and two, having to watch the Dolphins, make the playoffs, especially when one of his homes is in Palm Beach.
Yeah.
So I say that all to say this, like, they don't care. They would like Zach Wilson to be the guy, long term after Aaron Rodgers retires, but they're not really thinking about that right now.
Yeah.
They're thinking about just making the playoffs in 2023 and trying to make a run in the Super Bowl maybe in 2024. And then after that, we'll see, because that if they don't make the playoffs this year, or the season doesn't go as well as they want to, none of this is going to matter anyway, because there's going to be wholesale changes regardless. But Zach Wilson and Aaron Rodgers relationship, I mean, it kind of goes back to training camp 2 years ago when both of those guys met up for the first time, and Zach Wilson was, Aaron Rodgers was Zach Wilson's idol growing up. He wanted to be Aaron Rodgers. That was his favorite quarterback, his favorite player growing up in Utah. And the two met, exchanged phone numbers, and kept in close contact, throughout this past couple of years. It's just funny that this year, they end up going to get Aaron Rodgers. And, once that happened, then Zach Wilson and Aaron Rodgers kind of started hanging out in California together. So, because they knew the dynamic, they knew what was going to happen. And that from there, the relationship has only grown to the point to where it is now, whereas I think Zach has been humbled a little bit, especially after the situation last year where he didn't take any accountability, especially after he got benched in the Patriots game, where he only threw for 78 yards and no touchdowns, and was terrible in a 10-3 loss to the New England, the game they should have won.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a really good relationship, and it seems like Zach is, really grown within the last 6 months. We'll see, how it all transpired, because he may be asked to play and start once again, but right now it seems like, having Aaron Rodgers has been a positive thing for him.
Got you. One last question before we get to a break.
Yeah.
You mentioned, how, like, if they don't make the playoffs, a lot of people, like, I mean, Robert Saleh could potentially, other people jobs could be at risk. Do you get that, like, sense of urgency in the messaging? Like, are they, like, outright saying, like, we have to compete for playoff championships, or are they kind of more measured in their tone?
I don't think necessarily and on the surface they are, but we know that, kind of what's been going on in the, behind the scenes. And that's the way you make all these moves. Because otherwise, like, you could go out and they could draft a quarterback again. They could have maybe tried to go out and, see what the market for Lamar Jackson was, but they didn't want to do any of that. They wanted to first get Nathaniel Hackett, so he would be a bridge to try to bring Aaron Rodgers in. So once they brought in Hackett, then you kind of knew that that's the direction they were going to go in. And, they also could have went out and tried to get Derek Carr. Derek Carr clearly wanted to sign with the Jets, but, they wanted Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was their first choice. So that's the reason you wanted to swing big, because you knew this was a critical off season for everybody within that organization, especially considering, again, you missed on Zach Wilson, and you need to try to rectify that somehow. And one way to rectify that is bringing in a future Hall of Fame quarterback like Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen if they're going to be good, but the NFL definitely.
I ain't making no predictions. Like a lot of people, some people say Super Bowl. Yeah, I think playoffs. I think playoffs is a good goal for this team, and we'll see, because you got quality quarterbacks, really. But you're having a guy like Aaron Rodgers, which I'm sure we'll get to after the break, gives you a fighting chance in the AFC with obviously Mahomes and Burrow, and even Tua, who's played really well. But we know about the injuries and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, again, the 5 primetime games, I mean, right off the gate, I mean, their schedule is kind of not only the
I know, man,
games, but like just the way it's like they start with the Bills, hosting the Bills September 11th.
Monday night.
But Monday Night Football, and then you go to the Cowboys. Like, it's just back to back to back. Like,
that's a tough schedule.
Again,
right away.
We don't know if they're going to be good, but the NFL, like, they're going to be interesting. Like, it's gonna go one way or the other.
We'll see. We'll see. It's gonna be really good, or it's gonna be a crash and burn. It's gonna be really good or really bad. Like, that's how I feel.
Hey, it's only 2 ways to go, honestly.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get into a lot of that, how they shake up in the AFC East, as well as with the Dolphins. But first, we're gonna take a short break. But again, when we come back on the side of things, who do we expect to be better in 2023? The Dolphins or the Jets? Stay locked with us, and we'll be back soon. What's going on, everybody? Still here on the Dolphins In Depth podcast as we take our trip around the AFC East. This week, We're taking a look at the New York Jets. I'm joined by Antwan Staley, NFL and Jets reporter for the New York Daily News. Now, in the first half, we talked about the arrival of Aaron Rodgers, what Antwan has seen so far. But now we're going to go big picture. Dolphins, Jets, they both have reason to think that they can supplant the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East as the top dogs. The Bills have won the division for the past 3 years. But maybe there's some dissension or something weird going on in Buffalo. You got the Stephon Diggs situation. You got Leslie Frazier stepping down, taking a sabbatical. He's no longer there as DC. Sean McDermott is gonna be calling the plays there. But again, both the Dolphins and the Jets have made big moves. The Jets getting Aaron Rodgers, the Dolphins adding Jalen Ramsey to an already talented roster. It's going to be interesting to see how things shake out because I think that me personally, I feel like from my outsider's perspective, and again, not even somebody that's not a Dolphins fan, just a beat reporter, is not from the area and not from New York. It feels like as soon as the Jets got Aaron Rodgers, you kind of saw that New York bias, and it's true. There's a little bit of New York bias
Yes.
where
Yes.
maybe they get a little juiced up or gassed up, maybe a little bit more than they should have. So like I think like the week or two after the Jets got Aaron Rodgers, like the Jets were like the most bet team to win the Super Bowl. And I think that they had like the second best odds or something like that, either in the division or the conference to win the Super Bowl. And I'm like, part of me is like, all right, I see this as like you said, a team that was 7-4 at one point, with probably the worst quarterback play in the AFC between Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White. Like they probably had the
Yeah.
worst
By
AFC.
far to me, like
Yeah,
by
yeah.
far.
Okay.
Like even if they had Mac Jones, even the way he as Dallas he was last
They
year,
had average quarterback
they,
play. They
they would have
probably would
made
have
the
made the
playoffs.
playoffs.
They would have
Exactly.
made the playoffs. That's all this
Exactly.
team needed. Like they
Exactly.
had below average, like way below average.
Yeah.
And then
So
Mike White got hurt too, so that
yeah,
also
yeah.
factors in.
Yeah, so I see a team that was 7-10, and you add Aaron Rodgers to it. I mean, this is a like outside of the quarterback position, like that was actually a very good roster, but a roster with ascending talent, but talent that was sometimes injured. You had Brees Hall go down with the ACL, and I think that really hurt what they were able to do, kind of
Yeah.
taking pressure off the quarterback. You had other guys kind of go down with injuries. But I see it as a talented roster, like they're gonna be a hard out, no doubt. But I almost thinking like, are we kind of are we maybe gassing them a little too much? Because you look at when you get the veteran, the kind of aging but still star quarterback that kind of the tail end of his career. Like we've seen it go both ways. Like we've seen Peyton Manning come and do some great things with the Denver Broncos and kind of fall off with injuries and just kind of losing it physically. But we've also seen Tom Brady going to the Buccaneers, and you get a veteran, you get a motivated quarterback. Like Tom Brady was like on a mission. Like when he left,
Yeah.
he was like, I'm here to prove that it wasn't just Bill Belichick in that system. So you had kind of like the perfect storm. But then we even saw last year with Russell Wilson going to Denver. And it's like you just didn't, he was with Nathaniel Hackett, and you just didn't have the right mix, and things just kind of fell apart. That's why I say it can go both ways. Like I think that this is a team that has the talent to make the playoffs. I don't know about contender because there's only like two teams who I think are like legit contenders. Like it's the Chiefs, and
Yes.
then everyone's chasing them. Like obviously the Bengals have been in the
Yes.
mix; they've been there. But the talent level is just so high, and they've seen the quarterback play is so high.
Correct.
I don't think Aaron Rodgers is a wash. Do I think that we're gonna see like MVP vintage Aaron Rodgers? I don't know because he's only 2 years removed or a year removed from
Yeah.
anyway. But I'm not ready to say like they're Super Bowl contenders. Like as you kind of look at the roster, like what are your kind of thoughts on the roster? Like, what were the other kind of developments from OTAs and offseason workout? Because I know I read Brees Hall is expected to be ready for week 1, but it's
Yes.
like, is he going to be offensive rookie of the year caliber form that we saw last year? Like what are your thoughts on the roster outside of Aaron Rodgers right now?
Well, I'll talk about Brees Hall first, and then yeah, I mean it's hard coming off an ACL injury. Like how many examples have we seen of running backs coming off ACL injuries, and then it takes a while for them to come back to where
Usually
they
takes like a
were.
year. Like you have to like it's not
Yeah,
until the second
look at
season where you see
Saquon.
them back to form. Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
look at Saquon. Saquon came off ACL injury, and then 2021, not nearly the same player that he was, and then it only took him a year later, and then he became that same player that we kind of accustomed to see him. So I don't know, like, and then we're talking about a guy, Brees Hall. Like this has been it's less than a year removed. Like since he suffered the ACL, he suffered late October last year. So, like you said, that really hurt their season. Once he went down, they only won 2 games after that.
Yeah.
So that between him and I think AVT, Elijah Vera Tucker, like those were the two best players of their offense. Wow, no disrespect to Garrett or anything like that, but Elijah Vera Tucker he started every position, like just about. Like he started at guard, right guard. He started at right tackle and then left tackle,
Mhm.
like on in the same season, mind you. Like this is rare for offensive linemen in the NFL. Like I've seen it in college a little bit. Like we both cover college football. I've seen it in college, but
Yeah.
NFL, like especially early in the season like that, very rare. But I'm not ready to say they're Super Bowl contenders either. I still think the offensive line is a big issue there. Dwayne Brown, he's coming off a shoulder surgery. He sustained, like, really, he played last year with one shoulder, like basically the whole played 12 games with it. I don't know how he did it, but somehow he figured out a way to do that. And then once the Jets were officially eliminated from the playoffs, they shut him down because they knew he was going to need surgery. And at that point, against the Dolphins, it was no point of him playing at another game. At that point. So I think left tackle is still an issue, although I think Dwayne Brown will probably be the left tackle. Right tackle, we'll see. Mekhi Becton is coming back into the fold of things there. We're talking about somebody that has not played, really one game in 2 years. So he wants to be the left tackle. I don't know if the Jets necessarily feel comfortable, saying he's going to be left tackle. He needs to really earn it out there on training camp. But offensive line, if they can protect Aaron Rodgers, then I will feel a little bit more comfortable, with them possibly being contenders outside of, obviously Cincinnati and KC. But, I'm not convinced there either. Although like their defense is elite. Defense
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
really good last year.
Yeah.
Quentin, we'll see what happens with Quentin Williams. He's looking to get paid too. He's not happy. All these defensive tackles outside of Christian Wilkins are getting paid, but he's not one of those. And, he wants the bit, he wants the bag. So we'll see if he shows up for training camp. I imagine he will. I don't know if they're going to get anything done, but they want to keep him and they're going to find a way to keep him. But they finished fourth in defense last year. I don't know if they're going to necessarily do that once again, considering the schedule that they have coming up and the amount of quarterbacks that they play. But if
But
they can finish,
they might not need to. They might not need to
exactly.
if the offense does what it needs to do.
That's what I was going to say. Like they
Yeah.
might finish like 7th or 8th, but if you do that, then that still gives you a great chance to be successful in the playoffs come January.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the things about the defense that you mentioned that like I was talking with some friends about like whether the Jets defenses will be able to kind of like maintain that standard because you look at defense and from year to year, you tend to see a lot of volatility, especially because like a lot of defensive success is predicated on like turnovers. Like if you get a lot of takeovers,
Yeah.
you're in a good spot. But the thing that stood out to me, like I was looking at some different metrics and graphs, and it's like the Jets defense wasn't overly reliant on turnovers. Like
Correct.
they were just good, solid. I mean, they were just like solid across the
Yes.
board. So again, I mean, you don't need to be top 5 if Aaron Rodgers is like maybe doesn't need to be MVP Aaron Rodgers, but if he's like above, I mean, like I don't even want to say above average starting caliber because I feel like that'd be kind of like a disappointment if you're just an above average. But like if you get good quarterback play from them, from him, and then you kind of keep stay healthy and Breece Hall is like getting back to form, you can be a top 10, top 12 unit and still be good.
Yes.
I was gonna say it's interesting because the talent is there. When you look at the Dolphins and the Jets, they split the season series last year. Obviously the Dolphins winning in the season finale to get to the playoffs. But they didn't have Tua for either game because of the injuries. And you saw like both. I mean that last game was kind of a
Oh
but
God.
that was yeah that was an
Oh my
eyesore.
God.
We're not gonna get to
We
that.
ain't, we ain't gonna talk about that. I'm
Yeah,
gonna try
yeah,
to forget that.
but overall they were competitive matchups. Skylar Thompson, having to go in for Teddy Bridgewater after one play. That was a
Yeah.
pretty close game up until the end where it kind
The
of
fourth quarter.
until it kind
Yeah.
of got away from the Dolphins. I personally feel like when I look at the two rosters, I think that, and this might be maybe the Miami bias coming on my side, but I genuinely feel like the Dolphins roster as it currently stands is like one of the best. Like I wouldn't argue that it's like a top 5. Um, and
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying that the Dolphins are going to be better or as good as the Chiefs in 2023. I am very bullish on them, but I would say like I think that out of all the teams in the AFC, the Dolphins might have the roster that's able to match up the best with the Chiefs just because of what they're able to do on offense and defense, the speed, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and then on defense, having like legitimate corners on the outside, like shut down
Right.
the outside and Ramsey and Howard. And then you got, a duo up front with Chubb and Jalen Phillips who can get after
Yes.
it. And then obviously there's a lot more guys in the picture. But in terms of like actual like talent, like I feel crazy saying it sometimes, but I generally feel like the Dolphins might be like the most talented roster in the AFC, like just on paper. Now, obviously, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I think number one is Tua and his health, and I think that at this point, with like kind of the debate, the discourse, you either feel one way about it, but either way, your kind of opinion on Tua and his health is baked into it. Like there's a lot of people that say, if they're kind of more on the bullish side of the Dolphins, they say, oh well, he's taken the steps to avoid the concussions, the head injuries, and who knows, he's produced like when he's been on the field, he produced last year.
Yes.
But then there's the other side where they're just kind of assuming that the injury is not a matter of if but when. When you look at the Dolphins roster, what sticks out to you? And where do you think they shape up in the AFC? Because again, I think that talent-wise, you can honestly make the argument that they match up with any team in the AFC just off talent. But we know the game isn't played on paper.
I think they're the scariest team, like roster-wise in the AFC, like legitimately. And getting Vic Fangio, like, was huge.
I
Like
mean,
that absolutely
that might have
huge.
been
Like
just as big as getting Ramsey, honestly.
exactly. I think it was probably even bigger because you're getting the guy that's like been in multiple systems, had a ton of success. Look at what he did in Denver. Like Denver's offense was not good whatsoever. But their defense was legit. Like, I mean, and
He
you
didn't get
had
fired. He
Bradley
didn't really
Chubb.
get fired because of the defense. He got
Exactly.
also fired because they couldn't figure out quarterback in the offense.
Exactly. And the offense stunk. That's basically what it boiled down to. But yeah, he comes in, he just worries about the defense, not trying to be a head coach. You got Mike McDaniel, who's been a wizard, offensively and what he does. And then obviously, the talent that you got there. And really, like you said, really it's just about Tua. Can Tua stay healthy and then running the football? Like I know a lot of people with speculation with, Dalvin Cook. They get Dalvin Cook then. I'm like, yeah, they like they might be ready
Are
to,
you pro
do some,
like real quick in terms of Dalvin? Like it's been an interesting kind of debate in South Florida because it's clear that he hasn't signed with the teams in the like roughly 2 weeks since he's been released. It's
yeah.
clear that he wants money that's closer to what he was about to get with the Vikings before his release. How do you feel about that? Because I feel like that's the only thing about it. Like, I mean, there's mutual interest,
Yeah.
but are you willing to go, I don't know, $7-8 million, $7 million to sign Dalvin Cook, knowing what they already have, and maybe the role that he, maybe having to share the backfield? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I
I
think it's not clean cut. Like, I don't think that they need Dalvin Cook to like be like Super Bowl contenders. Like, I think they're already in that kind of circle, that bubble. It would help, but I don't think that they need him, especially when I'm kind of looking long term. Like, I'm thinking,
yeah.
you got to pay a lot of guys. Like, if I'm Dalvin Cook, I don't think Dalvin Cook wants a 1 year deal. I'm not reporting. I'm just
Probably not.
exactly. And you're thinking about, you got to pay Christian Wilkins, you got to play maybe
Yeah.
Tua in a year. You got other guys that are coming up for contracts. I'm wondering if like kind of going past what you would usually pay in this situation, is that worth it? Or do you just kind of say, we got to maximize this window right now and do everything we can to win? Like, what are your thoughts?
I'm kind of both ways. I'm kind of like 50-50. Like getting him is kind of like, a cherry on top of an ice cream or
Yeah, that's
ice
how I
cream
feel.
sundae. That's how I think,
That's literally what I said last week.
yeah, it's like it's already great. Like it's already good as it is, but you just get that cherry on there, just like it makes it really like perfect. But basically, not saying the Dolphins roster is perfect, but what I'm saying is like it makes it even more attractive than what it was. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't give him like a 3 year deal, especially considering running backs. And how I feel about running backs is you draft them, you replace them, and then you keep it moving. Like I don't necessarily give big time money to older running backs. However, in the Dolphins case with this, you want to like you said, maximize that window. So I would maybe give a 2 year deal, but most of that money guaranteed
Be in
might
the
be maybe
first
coming
year.
this year. And
Yeah.
then if you want to, you can get rid of them this year because after next year, because I mean they drafted a running back. I think obviously you can do it once again too as well. But yeah, I definitely I would not give him like a long-term deal. But yeah, you definitely want to try to maximize this window, especially considering what the Jets have done. And I don't feel good about what the Bills. I mean, I think the Bills are kind of what they've been. I think they're the same. I don't think they
Yeah.
necessarily have gotten better. Like I do like Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. I thought that was a really good pick for him. But other than that, I'm just
I think
yeah, you know,
there seems to be. I think there's a window. There's a window. There's an opening right now. Like the
yes,
post Brady, the Patriots obviously took a clear step back. The Dolphins were still trying to get things together. Tua was kind of in his early years, and then you had the Jets who were just kind of being the Jets. But more
yeah,
now than ever, I feel like it's just kind of like a. I almost wonder if the Bills have maybe missed their window, so to speak, and especially now that I think that the margins and like the space separating the teams in terms of talent has dwindled a lot. Like again,
yes,
I honestly think that the Dolphins are more talented than the Bills on paper, and
no doubt.
they gave them a run for their money every single time they played. I mean, if Tua
Yes,
plays in a playoff game, they probably win that game.
yes,
But again, even with the moves that the Jets have, I mean, the Jets split the series. I believe they split the series with
Buffalo.
Buffalo
Yes,
last year. So like the talent gap is no longer there, and now you add Aaron Rodgers to the mix. You add Tua if he can stay healthy. He led the league in passer rating. He was one of the better quarterbacks, most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL. For a good stretch of the period, I feel like the gap is definitely has dwindled in the AFC.
yeah. And to your point too, it's like remember years ago we thought the Bills were the second best team in the AFC, the Kansas City.
I mean,
Would you would
I don't think
you
that's no longer the case right
Yeah,
now.
that's definitely no longer the case. Like,
Make an argument for maybe
they might not even be
three
the
teams.
third best team, honestly. I mean,
I mean,
I don't know.
The Bengals have handled them the past couple times they played.
Exactly.
Obviously you have the Dolphins. You got the Jets now in the mix. The Ravens are coming back. They got Lamar. They kind of restocked their wide receiver group. So I mean, it's the Chiefs Invitational. I was just thinking about this Draymond Green meme where he was like, it's the Warriors Invitational, like
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
West. Right now, it's the Chiefs Invitational, and now we're just kind of waiting to see who's going to meet them in the AFC Championship game. I mean, I think
Yeah, it's just Jacksonville's there too.
that
So yeah,
Jacksonville again, Jacksonville. I mean, the Chargers that got Herbert, and you never know what they might be with a new LC. So the talent gap is so close. If you told me like any one of 5 or 6 teams was in the AFC Championship competing with the the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl, I'd be like, okay, I can see that. Like I can
yeah,
see the
yeah.
sign of bouncing that way. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in the AFC because I feel like by far the AFC is definitely a way more, the way tougher division, got the most quarterback talent compared to the NFC. So it's definitely gonna be interesting there.
Oh, for sure.
Well, one last thing before we get out of here, I gotta ask, like, kind of rounding it out with the Jets. Um, the Jets season is a success if this happens, or what do the Jets need for the season to be a success, and how could you see it maybe going the other way and maybe falling apart and the honeymoon, not lasting long?
Well, I think for me, it would be a success if they make the playoffs. That's basically what it boils down to. If they can make the playoffs and win a playoff game, then I think that would be a successful year for them. I know a lot of people look at the Super Bowl, but it takes luck. It takes being healthy. It takes a lot of, and then you got a guy like Patrick, like a generational quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, who
Yeah,
they're going to try to win another Super. I don't even know if they're going to be able to do that because that's so hard to try to win. Especially do what Brady has did throughout his career and win, the amount of 7 championships. Like that is extremely hard. But if anybody can do it, it's definitely Mahomes. But I think definitely, winning the playoff game, getting to the playoffs, I think would be successful. And then if it comes off the cracks a little bit, off the rails, I think it's because of either Aaron Rodgers has gotten hurt. The offensive line was not really stabilized there and really didn't have any continuity there. So I think those two, or the defense just kind of doesn't step up and be the unit that we expected them to be last year. And but I don't think that'll necessarily be the case because I think you still got some dogs there with obviously Quentin Williams and Sauce. I mean, do what Sauce did last year. I
yeah,
mean, just coming out there as a rookie, like that was pretty impressive.
yeah. I mean, again, outside of Aaron Rodgers, a very talented roster,
Yeah.
big expectations in New York. You will be a busy man this
No, no
fall,
more 1 o'clock games.
winter.
No
No
more
more
one
1 p.m.
o'clock.
I'm about to say I'm looking at the schedule
Man,
right now. They got like 5 1 p.m. games, but outside of that, it's 4:25, 8:20.
Sunday night, man, come on. Like
You
Sunday
still
night in
going
Vegas too.
you still
Like,
gonna be tired after the Thanksgiving dinner. You
bro,
gotta go to MetLife. Hey, but you can ask for. Hey, that's what you ask for. It's what you want if you're a reporter, man. So I know you're gonna have a
exactly.
lot of fun. And I appreciate you again for joining me this week. That brings us to the end of another edition of the Dolphins In Depth podcast. Again, thanks to Antwan Staley for joining me. We'll be back next week as we continue our trip around the AFC East. Reminder, as always, subscribe to Miami Herald YouTube page, like, share, comment, as well as subscribe to the Miami Herald. And again, we'll be back next week. But until then, you guys take care. See you.